This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
And welcome back to it, Free for All Friday, live from Mackinac Island. The focus here, of course, the Republican Leadership Conference. Just coming off debate number 2, and my good friend and the editor of MERS News, Kyle Melinn, sitting down with me here. We're in the art gallery here of the Grand Hotel. And Kyle, you came in with some incredible news this morning. We're going to talk about the candidates and so forth, but you've got something that you don't normally hear at such an event, but it is fascinating to say the least. Welcome aboard.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here. Yeah, I was a little surprised, too, when I woke up this morning and saw this on my Facebook. So what we got going on here is John Yob, who is the chief political strategist for Rand Paul and the national political director for Rand Paul here in the state, says on Facebook this morning that he was punched in the face last night by Marco Rubio's deputy political director, Rich Beeson, at Horns last night up here on Mackinac Island.
So they're having some drinks, apparently, and apparently it got a little sorted, apparently. And this is a serious deal. Apparently the police are looking for this Rich Beeson.
Yeah, Yob says that he ran into Beeson. He said he doesn't know who he was at first because he isn't relevant in his political world. And anyway, he said he was literally physically assaulted and that this guy punched him in the face. Yob said the state police are looking for him. He said he has video from multiple angles, and he expects this story to play out in the next few hours. Now, also, there is a blog called West Michigan Politics that's put out by a guy named Brandon Hall. And Brandon Hall was at Horns last night and said he saw the assault take place. He wrote this morning in a blast email that he was sitting at the bar talking to someone at Horns when he saw Beeson, quote, out of nowhere, approach John Yob unprovoked and tried to hit him. Beeson missed a full shot, but then struck Yob in the face with a powerful blow near the jaw. He said police were summoned by Horns workers after the fight dispersed, and that Beeson has been banned from the bar.
That happens to college kids. Get thrown. College kids get thrown out of the bar. But I'm looking at this picture of Beeson. Ivy pulled this up on this West Michigan Politics blog you talk about. He looks like he could throw a pretty good punch. He's a big dude. I mean, if you get hit by him, you might get knocked down now.
Yeah, very possible. But we got to try and confirm this information with the police and what they're reporting and what they're going to do with this Beeson guy. But,
these are credible sources, though. Some of these people, I mean, you know these guys right here, right?
Well,
a little bit.
Well, I know John Yob, and
right.
he just wouldn't make something up and put it on Facebook.
Right, and we're getting multiple sources. So I'd say and here's the bad news for Mr. Beeson. It's an island. And there's only one way off, and it's on those ferries over there. So they're going to find you. You might as well,
Yeah, you're not going to hide on this island unless you want to instigate a manhunt in the woods back here behind the Grand Hotel.
Well, that'd be good for ratings.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Wouldn't it be? Oh, yeah, we'd be up there.
We'd generate a lot of buzz for this conference if we did something like that.
Yeah, Periscope would finally be worth something. We'd go live, Anyhow, so that's breaking news, and we'll find out where that's going. And of course, if you hear something in the next couple of hours here, keep us informed, Kyle.
Well, you know what? What Brandon Hall had said in this is that it was provoked, and we got to find this out, but Hall said this was provoked by the whipping of a straw poll that we're doing with the Detroit News up on this island this weekend.
Right.
We're going to be doing a straw poll on the attendees of this Mackinac conference and asking who their preferred presidential candidate is, and we're going to release those results on Sunday. And so I think it's interesting that we have these different camps already trying to galvanize the people who are going to participate in this poll, because let's be honest, these results results are going to be broadcast far and wide for at least the state of Michigan and possibly a larger audience than that. And everybody wants to have good results. No one wants to look like they're lagging here in Michigan.
Well, nobody wants to look like they're punching the opponent in the face and getting hauled off by the cops. I'll throw that out. And people thought that Donald Trump behaved badly. I mean, this is right up. This will be in the all-time. Are you kidding?
Now, do you remember Mike Bishop getting punched in the face?
I do remember that.
Yeah, he wasn't the Senate Majority Leader at the time. I think he was just a senator, but he got into a confrontation with a man about offering his place on one of those horse ferries to a woman, and he got punched right in the eyeball.
Yeah.
He had a shiner for a while.
Well, I wonder how Yob's going to look today. So it said that it was a glancing punch. He didn't get the full brunt of it. But, okay, so there's the drama on Mackinac Island today. Apparently,
a punch has already been thrown.
Yeah, a punch has already been thrown. Blood has been drawn, and they're serious about this whole thing. And, I was going to have you here to talk about Cindy Gamrat and Todd Courser.
Oh, we can talk about that,
which is talking about having blood drawn. This is a little bit different. But Cindy Gamrat jumps back in the race, and, come on. Really?
Well, it's really interesting that I think that she feels like the House representatives did her wrong. And so she's going to be coming back and let the voters decide. If the voters don't want her to be in office, she wants to hear from the voters. But who she's hearing from in her district are folks who are very sympathetic toward her and aren't sure that having an affair and then being a mild accomplice to this email scheme is worth getting kicked out for. It's a bad decision. It was a poor decision. But is it worth somebody not being in that position anymore?
Well, is it? I had somebody ask me this morning about, you had other lawmakers, Virgil Smith, right, that shot his ex-wife's car. Is that?
Yeah, Virgil Smith had shot up his ex-wife's car. He's still in office right now.
Right, so you can shoot up your ex-wife's car and remain in office, but you're having an affair, and they toss you out. It seemed, I see unbalance there. I can see the questions. Last week on Friday, I spoke to Todd Courser at length, had him on the program.
Yeah, I heard that.
And he wouldn't rule out the possibility of running again either. I mean, what are we going to get them both back?
It's possible. Now, I think Todd Courser's road's a little more difficult because he's run in crowded primaries before, and one in particular with Gary Howell, who is filed to run in this seat. And Gary Howell, I think, got twice the number of votes Todd Courser did. This was 2010, I believe, or 12, one or the other. And so he's run against Howell before and gotten beat without this scandal. So with this scandal, I think that Todd Courser's prospects are pretty dim. Now, Gamrat has won against Mary Whiteford before, who would seem to be the favored candidate in that 80th district in a crowded field again, and won. So maybe she feels like she has a little bit more history in that district and would have a little bit more success. It would be my opinion that she would have more opportunity for success because, right now I think there's 5 candidates in that race. Mm-hmm. Let's say Cindy Gamrat gets 25%. Let's say she gets a quarter of the vote. She could still win this race. She really could.
Would she win it against a Democrat in the general? That's the real question.
Well, I don't think there's any question of that. That district is about 63% Republican. So I have a hard
time.
For
this behavior?
Even for this behavior, I would have a very, very hard time seeing a Democrat be successful in that.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Kyle. I appreciate you coming in. And what a great story to start the day. I mean, interesting story. With
not good for John Yob.
Yeah, not good for John Yob, although it makes for good copy. He'll be on all the big he'll end up on, all the big programs tonight is what he'll end up on.
Right, and it was probably worse news for the Rubio campaign, really.
That's right. All right, it's Free For All Friday. A free-for-all with a haymaker, apparently, here on Mackinac Island. We'll be right back.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
Wow, you don't get something for nothing. You can have freedom for free. You won't get wise with the sleeves still in your eyes, no matter what your dream might be.
All right, welcome back to the program. Well, we're following this breaking news. Marco Rubio's national campaign manager apparently got a little liquored up. These are the reports. And then punched Rand Paul's national political director in the face last night here on Mackinac Island in Michigan. This is all part of the Republican Leadership Conference gathering. Marco Rubio will be here. Rand Paul will be here. Apparently they're operatives. They're high-end operatives. throwing punches. You know, the first punch has been thrown. Let there be blood, apparently. There you have it. Our next guest is a man who knows a lot about Washington and the kind of money they spend there. And so as all these Republicans gather, it's always a time to talk about how much we spend and how little we get. Frank Vernuccio here, the editor-in-chief of the New York Analysis of Policy and Government. Frank, welcome back to the program.
Steve, it's good to be with you again.
Yes, sir. Well, here we are, 18 trillion and growing daily. And I wonder, what do we get for this? What do we get for all the money we spend? Our army's smaller, our roads are broken, our bridges are in trouble. What do we get for all this?
Well, that's exactly the problem. We're seeing a 41% increase in food stamps over the past 6.5, 7 years. But as you mentioned, we have the weakest military we've probably had since before the start of World War II. In fact, in some cases, particularly the Navy, it's the smallest Navy we've had since before World War I. The Army, by the end of 2015, if all the planned cuts go in place, will be smaller than North Korea's. Our Air Force
that is frightening, though, isn't it?
Our Air Force is the smallest it's ever been in history. We're at a crisis point.
Yeah, and the smallest it's ever been, and here we are with North Korea now, with the opportunity to trade nuclear secrets back and forth with Iran, because why wouldn't they? They're all on the same page now, and with this deal we made with Iran, this treaty, whatever you want to call it, and now North Korea saying they have their information and their materials, and why could they not trade back and forth? This is a dangerous place.
Well, indeed, they already are trading information back and forth. We know that there are North Korean experts in Iran, and we know that there are Iranian experts in North Korea. So the exchange of information is moving ahead quickly to the most dangerous places on Earth, exchanging nuclear information. It looks like a nuclear nightmare for the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's just scary. And so, we look at all of these things that we're spending money on, and it makes me wonder, why are we doing this? Why are we, it's at the F-35 or the F-22, one of these fighters we spent $1 trillion on. It's still not operational. Meanwhile, we're falling behind people like North Korea or the Russians, or pick your country. The Chinese are all over us with a bigger Navy and more firepower and building islands in the South China Sea. And what are we doing?
Well, you bring up a great point concerning China. China now has something called the Dongfeng 21 missile. It's an unmatched device. No one else in the world has anything like it. It can destroy a United States aircraft carrier group from 900 miles away on shore. It changes the balance of power in the Pacific. During the past several years, when we've seen the fulfillment of President Obama's goal to sharply reduce spending on military, our military reduced in size, in quality, and in the quantity of experienced personnel. We know that Navy chiefs were encouraged to retire. Navy chiefs, of course, are the guys who really run the Navy on a day-to-day basis. We've seen Army majors in the field in Afghanistan basically getting their pink slips. The demoralization of our armed forces is tremendous. Now, look, certainly the United States has a bloated budget. But it's bloated not because of things like military spending or infrastructure spending. The military accounts for only 18% of the federal budget, a really small amount compared to past levels. And, of course, we look at what we're not spending on infrastructure, our crumbling bridges and roads and so forth, and we see nothing of any substance getting done. A weakened military, a deteriorating infrastructure, and some really vital needs going completely unaddressed. Electromagnetic pulse defense, for example. We know that every 100 or 150 years, the sun basically lets out what's called an EMP type of approach, type of a flare, and it fries electronics. If a EMP similar to what occurred in the 1850s occurred today, every piece of electronics in the United States would be fried if we were facing the wrong direction towards the sun. An enemy nation, if they developed or dropped a single nuclear weapon over the midsection of the United States, could also have the same EMP, electromagnetic pulse effect, frying all electronics in the United States. The money to protect the U.S. from this potential disaster is only a couple of $1 billion. President Obama's stimulus package of $721 billion, which we're all still trying to figure out where those dollars went, just a tiny fraction of that money could have protected the United States from this potential disaster, and yet it remains undone.
And here we stand undone. So, is any of this ever going to change? Seriously, with the new president, does any of this ever change and head the other direction, or is this just the way things are?
It's going to have to change because we have indeed reached the tipping point. We can't tax our population any longer. The corporate tax level in the United States is the highest of any of our developed trading partners. The American public is really strained to the limit, particularly the middle class, and how much taxes they can possibly pay. So the money is not going to be there in the future. We have to do something, and we have to do something now. The way to do it is simply to prioritize what we have to spend. Steve, if your family budget includes X amount of dollars that you're taking in, spending money on things like the rent, the gas and electric bill, and food make a lot of sense. Spending money on a luxury vacation when you're on a tight budget does not. Essentially what we've been doing in the United States is blowing the rent money on luxury vacations and ideological things like increasing food stamps when in fact the basics go unaddressed.
That's a fact. Frank Vernuccio, always a pleasure, always an education. Thank you.
Steve, I look forward to our next discussion.
There you have Frank Vernuccio, editor-in-chief of the New York Analysis of Policy and Government, on this free-for-all Friday edition of the Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
All right, welcome back to it. It's Free for All Friday, 33 after. Steve Gruber with you here live from Mackinac Island at the Grand Hotel here in the, where are we? The Art Gallery? Yeah, the Art Gallery. Beautiful. We're all just trying to keep up on this breaking story that, apparently a couple of campaign managers throwing punches last night. At least one got punched. Marco Rubio's national campaign manager apparently on the lam now. We'll talk about that in a bit. But first, we're going to go back to John Cornack, who we spent time with yesterday, the president of the Eisenhower Center down at the Lansing Center, where their big get-together is going on. John, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I hope someone wasn't knocked out. We're worried about concussions here.
Well, I understand that. No, it just kind of adds a little excitement up here, though. Two campaign managers have a few drinks and start throwing fisticuffs in the local bar. Well, that's always, trust me, it'll be all over the national news before another hour passes. I guarantee you that. Anyhow, how's the event going down there?
Oh, the event's amazing. We got record crowds. It's the largest in the country, so we're proud of that. Michigan is known for its no fault. It's known for its support as far as facilities. So a big turnout. Things are great today. We get to see the folks that were survivors, the injured. They come today, and we get to welcome them and thank them for being a part of our life.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday a little bit. When it comes to brain injuries, if you have a traumatic brain injury, there's probably no better place, no better state to be than Michigan, because the number and the quality of the facilities, including the Eisenhower Center, that can be found in the state of Michigan, and a lot of that, in fact, maybe all of that, you trace back to Michigan's law on no-fault insurance, correct?
Oh, yeah, that's it. NASHA, that's the National Association for Head Injury. They're having their national as well in a month or so, but they point at Michigan and say this is the model. If they had a dream and they could make things happen for those folks, traumatic brain injury, Michigan is that model. It's that state. We're far above all other states in the country.
So, and you talk about that because there's a fund of about $18 billion. I'm not exactly sure, but apparently there's going to be a case finally heard in front of the Michigan Supreme Court coming up next month, so we can find out how much money is there, more transparency, and talking about what to do. Now, the opponents of no fault say, listen, this is a bloated system. We can save drivers cash if we change this out and stop doing what we're doing, which is basically lifetime benefits for those that have traumatic head injuries and brain injuries in automobile accidents. We could stop doing. We could save drivers money, and you say that's a bad idea. Why?
Well, because what happens in the other states, what the insurance companies are doing is they're carving out the medical side of it because they don't think they have a responsibility there. And so it makes them another $800 million. But when you think about it, the $800 million is quite a large economic engine here in the state of Michigan. And those other folks in other states, they go to places that aren't so much quality care. They're skilled nursing homes, they're halfway houses, they're the streets, they're the jail system. And so the outcome in other states is, for the quality of life, is not the best. And I liken it to this. Okay, so we save someone's life. Our ERs are great. Our doctors are getting better. The technology is amazing, and so are the cars. And now, so you save someone's life, but they have no life to go to. They have no future, and that's what happens in some of these other states. Michigan's the only state that takes the whole continuum and gives someone that opportunity to, get back as a working citizen. We have that happening here more than anywhere.
And so I guess, and I've had this conversation. I've had people from both sides come up to me that have heard these conversations here on the radio, John. And there are some people that are just say that what we're doing in Michigan is wrong, that it's costing too much money. And then I say, now wait a second. We've been funding this for pretty much my entire adult life, my entire driving career. I've been paying for this. So why would I want to go? Honestly, why would I want to save literally a few dollars to give up the insurance that we have in that safety net, if you will? To me, it doesn't make sense, but I'm open to all sides. But I know there are people that are vehemently opposed to this no-fault system we have.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, when you look at the $18+ billion we have in the safety net for the insurance industry, it really more than covers every need that we have. And actually, they could start bringing those rates down. They brought it down from 186 to 150 this year. The reason they're doing that is because they have so much money in the fund, they don't know what to do with it, and they look silly now. And really, that's because they're gouging us. And that's really the key, is insurance industry has been gouging folks for life. Most of us don't get in car accidents. Most of us never need this catastrophic fund, thank God. But it's probably the best value for your dollar. I mean, for $150 a car, if you get catastrophically injured in the state of Michigan, you get care. And it's the best money you spend on insurance is that $150, because that's all it is in a year. So the catastrophic coverage is amazing.
Yeah, and again, for those that have to use it, a lot of them would be bankrupt, and it'd be over for them. But I understand the point of view from others. It's that big government thing that they don't like, and they feel the government's getting involved too much. And I think on balance here, though, I think it's a conversation worth having. And this conversation is going to go on because, like I said, there's $18 billion in that fund. And when there's that much money on the table, well, people pay attention, don't they?
Oh, they really want it. They want it to fix the roads now. We don't know what they'll do next with it, but, they want the $1.2 billion so we can save some roads. They say it'll help 100 lives, and I'm thinking you got 14,000 lives you're fixing with the MCCA right now. So, you're going to take away the MCCA and save 100 lives. It's just not balanced. And so I like it that this is not the public paying. This is the actual individuals paying, but not our government. So I like that the system's outside of our government control. But
we're on the line this morning with John Cornack. He is the president of the Eisenhower Center. He is at the Brain Injury annual get-together at the Lansing Center down in the shadow of the state capitol. And all the folks getting together and talking about the things and modern breakthroughs and so forth. And I saw a lot of fabulous items there. Some of these tracked wheelchairs. These are things you didn't used to see. And so I'm fascinated by the technology because it's not just car accidents when it comes to brain injuries. It can be an accidental fall. It can be our military personnel coming home from abroad that have. So they all benefit from what you guys are doing down there.
Oh yeah, we're working with professional athletes. We're working with veterans. One that's truly neurobehavioral. Some of the best centers in the country are right here in Michigan, and you can't replace that care. It's just the reason they're coming to Michigan is you can't find it you can't find it anywhere else. So they're starting to come to us, and we're really proud of that. And we want our governor to be proud of that, and we want our lieutenant governor to be proud of that, and we want our legislators to be proud of that, and we want the citizens to be proud of that.
Well, John Cornack, I greatly appreciate your input as always. John Cornack is the president of the Eisenhower Center, one of the places the people go when they have a serious brain injury. It's in Ann Arbor. It's a premier facility, and it's all part of the Brain Injury Association of Michigan get-together in Lansing this week. John, thank you so much for your time once again.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
All right, there you have it, everybody. John Cornack, president of the Eisenhower Center. Coming up next here, we'll have Liz Peek on the program, a columnist for Fox News and the Fiscal Times. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about what Hillary Clinton had to say during her first live interview with Wolf Blitzer that aired on CNN yesterday. And Hillary, unable to answer the question, what have you accomplished? Now, what are your big accomplishments? Go ahead and give us a list. And she was unable to do that on Wolf Blitzer's program yesterday. We'll talk to Liz Peek from Fox News right after this.
The Steve Gruber Show, American Values with Midwestern Common Sense.
All right. Quickly to the hotline, Alex. I missed that name. Dave, welcome to the program. It's Free for All Friday.
Thank you. Happy wet Grand Rapids morning to you. Anyway, you had a guest probably 40 minutes ago that talked about the road tax again. And I don't understand why our governor, taxinator, the rhino we got in the governorship house here, doesn't get it. We had a vote. It was like, 80 to 20%? 80% did not want to raise taxes. And we don't care if you come back 6 months later like you're doing, give it a new name and do the same old thing.
And then try to raise our taxes again, yeah. Yeah, they keep trying to raise our taxes as well, which is probably going to happen. And Dave, I can sympathize with you because it still remains out there not fixed as it should be, and I agree with you on that, and thanks for checking in. We have to move along quickly. Liz Peek on the line, columnist for Fox News and the Fiscal Times. And Liz, how are you this morning?
I'm great, thank you. Recovering from the debate.
Yeah, let me give you a little headline for you here from Mackinac Island, where the Republican leadership conference is taking place, and many of the candidates are here on the island with us here in Michigan. Marco Rubio's national campaign manager apparently attacked and then punched Rand Paul's national political director in the face last night on one of the bars here. The Michigan State Police looking for a man by the name of Rich Beeson now as he attacked Mr. Yob apparently at a local bar called The Horn in front of everybody. Lots of video out there. That'll be your story for the day, Liz, because trust me, there were fisticuffs, there were video cameras, there were phones, and now the state police are apparently looking for this gentleman on Mackinac Island. And by the way, it's an island. They'll find him.
Good Lord. That is a really sad development because that's really not what you want the headlines to be 2 days after what I thought was a pretty successful Republican debate. I'm sorry to hear it. And, it's like another proxy war in the Middle East, I guess, right? I mean,
right, it's bizarre.
It is. Absolutely. It's better than Rubio punching Paul, you'd have to say, to have their delegates. But
well, unless we had video, of course.
Yeah, that's bad news.
Well, that's bad. Well, here's the thing, and I thought Marco, in fact, my wife thought that Marco Rubio had the best performance of the evening. She just really liked his answers and thought he was solid on what he was talking about, and I didn't disagree with her. I thought Carly had a very big night. How did you score it?
Oh, I thought both of those people did extremely well. Look, Carly Fiorina is coming under a lot of flack for not smiling more and so forth, but I think people are beginning to look at her as sort of a mini Margaret Thatcher, not with the stature of Margaret Thatcher, to be sure, but someone who clearly has taken this very seriously, done her homework. I thought all of her rattling out of what kind of fleet additions we needed, how many brigades. I don't think anyone else on that stage probably had done the homework that she had done. She's a serious person, and I think also she handled the Donald Trump assault very capably and gracefully. But as I think we've spoken before, I'm also a fan of Marco Rubio. I think he is an attractive, young, genuine guy who, also has done his homework. And, of course, this debate was focused on foreign affairs, and because of his role in the Senate, and because he takes that role very seriously, I think Marco Rubio comes across as very well informed on foreign policy. So, yeah, I agree with your wife. I think both of them did extremely well. And some others did well, too. I thought that Chris Christie kind of edged his way back into the conversation. He has a long, long way to go, but I thought it was a good night for him. Oddly, I thought that Ben Carson kind of shrank on the stage, and it's really quite a ephemeral thing to figure out why he seemed such. Well, he had some great one-liners in the first debate. More recently, in the second debate, he really didn't have anything that made him stand out, and he just seemed a little kind of flat. To me.
Yeah, I think that's the word, flat, very flat. In fact, my three losers for the debate were Ben Carson. Rand Paul, I thought, did himself no particular favors. And unfortunately, Governor Scott Walker was pretty much a non-player. I mean, he was a non-factor in the entire debate. What I found, whether it was Chris Christie and even John Kasich, held his own enough to remain in the conversation. But these guys would plow through. When people were trying to cut him off, they would finish. Carly would plow through and finish her answer, finish her thought. Every time Scott Walker, they said, stop, he'd step back like he was meek in a way.
Yeah, and actually I think it's the second debate in which he just doesn't show well, and it's, he's right. He's got some remarkable credentials for following through, from confrontation, holding his ground against, enormous backlash amongst the teachers' unions and so forth. Where that punch is, I don't know, because he has not shown it.
And now he's going to be here. Originally, he had canceled his appointment to be here on Mackinac Island for this Republican get-together this weekend, but then he rescheduled. He was going to go to Iowa and New Hampshire. Then he reconsidered, and now he's going to be here today, and we hope to get a chance to ask him exactly that. What is your plan for a reset, or where do you go from here? Because here's the thing. Donald Trump was juvenile and kind of attacking Rand Paul, but I don't think he was wrong. Rand Paul has become a non-factor in recent weeks, too. His campaign has fallen off. Scott Walker's campaign has fallen off. These guys have paid the price more for the rise of Trump and Fiorina and others than anyone else, I believe.
Well, I think that's right, although I would argue that Rand Paul always addressed a pretty narrow segment of the GOP voter bloc. I mean, if you think about his main credential or his main talking point, it's anti-military, anti-intervention. And I think that just doesn't play very well when Americans are being beheaded by ISIS. That's sort of a bold, kind of backdrop against which to say, listen, we don't need to get involved. It's their fight. Well, we are involved, and I think most people realize that 7 years of withdrawal on the global stage, courtesy of President Obama, has left us more vulnerable, and God knows it's left the world in much worse shape. And I think, honestly, this is something going into 2016, I think Republicans are going to be able to use the Iran deal against whoever the Democrat nominee is, because both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders have come out, and heaven knows Joe Biden is in the Iran deal up to his neck, too. It's a very bad deal, and with very predictable consequences. And I think whoever the GOP nominee has to have the ability to use that to their advantage.
Absolutely. Liz Peek, thank you very much. It's Free for All Friday on the Steve Gruber Show, and Friday night at the Fights.